Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today, we're going to take a look at Thierry's fun and affordable collection. This collection is just is extremely cool one. I mean, it's one I really came to like. Last week, we looked at Raphael's just fantastic collection. And the thing that made it fantastic wasn't the price of the watches, but the wonderful selections that Raphael made. And the thing I liked about Thierry's collection, it's affordable, but you also can find some excellent choices. And so this is what we're going to look at. Now, the first one, in fact, the first couple, Thierry really didn't think much of as part of a collection. For example, he had the Rado Centrix, and it's running on an ETA, one of those odd numbered ones. This one was the CO7.631. Now, the thing about this that to me caught my attention, it runs at 3 hertz. This is where your higher level, where you find your really excellent watches by independent watchmakers, where they have that kind of movement speed. FP Journes have the same one. So that was the first thing. Plus, the thing that's interesting about Rado, they've always used interesting material. And I think they're one of the first ones to use ceramics in their watches. Very, very interesting choice. All right, moving right along. This next one is the Frederic Constant, and it's called the Peking to Paris limited edition micro rotor chronograph. And the thing about this, it's a chronograph in the Peking to Paris. I'm not quite sure whether Freddie Constant got that name. I use the term Freddie's in that I've seen a lot of Frederic Constant collectors refer to their watches as Freddie, so it's not pejorative at all. This watch brand is really an interesting one, and that's a good-looking dial. You got a nice little chronograph there with a micro rotor. I wish for an automatic watch, I'd rather have a micro rotor than any other kind. And let's see, Vasseur has a very nice one among some of the other really good ones. So this is a cool watch. All right, this next one is a Hamilton Ventura. Now, this was a watch that Elvis Presley was pictured in back in the early 60s or late 50s, some time period there, when he was in the Army. And they had a picture of him wearing his Ventura. And so they came out with one called the Hamilton Ventura Elvis 80, which is just a trip. Here you have a triangular shaped watch. Who's got a watch like that? And these watches are all very affordable. Anyway, there's Elvis with his Hamilton Ventura. So this is another cool one that Thierry has. All right, this next one is a Hamilton Khaki, and this is another chronograph, and now this was in a PVD. Hamilton has their caliber; they call it an H21, but it's an ETA 7750, which used to be a Valjoux 7750, one of the most used, reliable automatic chronographs around. And this is a great, the Hamilton Khaki is a great field watch. It's a very cool one, and especially with that interesting movement in it. All right, now this next one just was a trip. It's first of all, it's a Maurice Lacroix. By the way, I am wearing a Maurice Lacroix of my own. This is my master. It's called a masterpiece. Thierry's Maurice Lacroix's masterpiece, Heuer Retrogrades Ronde. Now, if you look at the 6 o'clock on this, there's a retrograde for the days of the week. And I think on my Harry Winston Premier by retrograde. One of the retrogrades is the same thing, except it's at 9 o'clock, and this one's at 6 o'clock. Anyway, and the other thing, it's got that dual window for the dates. One is to the left and one is to the right. Now, the thing about Maurice Lacroix, I just don't like. I don't like it with any watch company that does it, but they do it. They have what they call an ML120. Well, an ML120, I just figured, well, it's some kind of dolled up ETA, but it wasn't. It turned out to be a very, very interesting movement. It's by Techno Times, the Caliber TT738. And I dug and dug and dug and found out that sure enough, yeah, that one of the options you could have with that watch was a retrograde. So they have, and boy, I tell you, Maurice Lacroix made this a really wonderful retrograde. And again, these are not expensive watches, but what a cool one this is. I mean, it's just, this is such a neat watch. All right, let's go on. Now, the next one is another cool one that Thierry got, and it's called an Eterna Khaki. Khaki was named after sort of this rig they put together to see if it could sail out in the ocean to somewhere. I think somewhere in the Pacific to show how. Oh, I think the Hawaiian Islands or someplace out there, or Fiji, was how populations moved to there. And they made a boat called Khaki. Wonderful adventure. There was a book on it and so forth. Anyway, now in bronze, the thing about bronze that Thierry mentioned that he really likes, the patina on bronze changes depending on who wears it. It's affected by the environment, the person's their wrist, what kind of information they're getting. And so you have these unique patinas on that. Now it's running on a Sellita SW200-1, which is a pretty standard Sellita movement. Is another cool watch. And again, this is not one that's going to break the bank, but it's a really neat watch. Okay, now this is a Tag Heuer. Now this is the Caliber, one of their Caliber 5s. They call it Caliber 5. And it's got a 2824-2 ETA base to the Caliber 5. And one of the things, I was having a hard time running down the movement on this. And I finally did it on the basis that they have some that are set for 500 meters of water pressure and some that were 300. This one was 300, so I was able to find the movement that went with it. I'm not sure what else. That's not a big find. Finding a Caliber 5 on a Tag Heuer is not a challenge. But this one, it's a nice one. It's got a blue one. It's just blue, and you could, at least you could jump in the pool with it maybe. And it's got a metal band. Neat little watch. Now, this is, to me, the icing on the cake. This watch is so cool. Very affordable watch. I found these brand new. You can get them for about $2,000. And it's called the Vulcanian Golden Voice. 39 millimeter watch, manual winding, double barrel, and it's got a Vulcan V10, which is a pretty common manufactured by Vulcan in-house H2 movement. 42 hours reserve. It's got a frequency of 2.5 hertz or 18,000 vibrations per hour. Well, heck, I looked this watch up. I looked up the Caliber, the V10. What a neat watch. I really like the dial. It's and plus it has a little pusher at 2 o'clock for. I think that sets the alarm, and that's the thing about Vulcan. Vulcans have alarms in them, and this was just added to Thierry's collection. And again, here you have all of these watches that are really cool. They're not crazy expensive. They have wonderful stories with them. When I interviewed these top watchmakers at Time Zone, not Time Zone, but Watch Time Show back in October, New York City, I wanted to find out why they use the slower frequencies. And it turned out not only, I mean, I simply was interested in one that were below 4 hertz. All of them, Kerry Wooten, Lonan, um, Roland Murphy, guys whose name I can't pronounce, Beauvais, who won the tippity top grand prize. They had these watches running at 2.5 hertz. So I looked this up. The V10, or at least this V10, is running at 2.5 hertz. What a watch! I just love this watch, and the next day I looked them up and immediately tempted to run out and get one. Well, what do I recommend for Thierry's really interesting collection? It's sort of one that you look at this and say, this is a guy who gets interesting watches, but they're affordable at the same time, and that I think is probably keep on keeping on. The other day, Del Rey Watches, Federico from Del Rey Watches had this. He was sort of posted this one he had for sale, and it was an Omega, I think DeVille, with jumping hours. What a cool watch. And it wasn't that expensive. I forgot what it was. But I thought, now that's the kind of watch, is that you look around, you find something really neat. And here's a watch with a salmon dial, jumping hours, and what looked like sort of an oversized Breguet hand for the minutes are actually more almost like a Kerry Wooten Lonan hand. So there are all kinds of watches out there, and to say, okay, well, for who you are is reflected to some extent in the watches you collect. They can be more expensive, they can be less expensive. They can be ones that a lot of people like Rolexes or Omegas or Tag Heuers. A surprisingly large number of people who like those. And our Breitlings, these are some of the other ones that sort of in the middle somewhere. And the point is that if those are the ones that make you happy and you enjoy having, then those are definitely the ones to get. I can't. I mean, the more you learn about the whole everything you can about mechanical watches, I'm not going to say, well, you should learn this and you should learn that. Just learn everything you can and enjoy the learning. Learning about watches as a hobby shouldn't be a chore. It should be part of the fun. And Thierry I think has a good handle on that. He knows what he can afford. And so he's done a great job so far. Also, too, for some of you other collectors out there, you can see some things that are very affordable. They're not what I would call strictly conformity by any stretch of the imagination. So anyway, naturally, I want to hear your comments. A little subliminal optic, and some ideas that you have. Okay, so anyway, and I want to thank Thierry for sharing with us his collection, and I encourage others of you who have a collection. We have did a video what you need to do and everything else. We have that for you. Go take a look at it. I'll have it drop down from here to remind you, or on the very end there'll be a link to it. So think about getting your own collection reviewed too. So until next Friday, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Outside. And as always, this is an invitation to subscribe if you'd like. Hope to see you then.